All right. Good day. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another Live the Fuel show. So today, once again, I'm bringing you another fresh and new guest co-host. He's not new to the podcasting world, but he's new to ours. And I'm actually looking forward to this conversation. We were just joking around about a few things that popped up recently for me. And anybody who listened to the show for a few years now, a while back, I tried taking a swing at swimming because apparently my body is made for it. And this guy might know a little bit about that. And I suck at it. But part of that fun little joke on myself is he also has an interesting topic we're going to talk about today, that a technology, if you will. And since I'm such a health and wellness and fitness nut, and obviously the tagline for this show is we fuel, as a verb, your health, business, and lifestyle. I can see this technology stemming across all those domains, which is why he's here today. But this gentleman has talked to all walks of life and has impacted all walks of life with the technology they're working with, which we're going to get into. I mean, we're talking about applications that can impact Navy SEALs, Olympic athletes, right? This is that upper echelon, but also people that are aging well or want to age better. So there's a lot of that health and fitness real focus here for today, because obviously that's why we talk about health first and then business and lifestyle. I remind people you want to be successful. If you don't put your health first, you will pay for it later. But that being said, today's topic is around KAATSU, KAATSU. And we will have all this up on YouTube. We'll have this all in the show notes. But this gentleman is going to teach us a little bit about it. And he's our guest host today, Stephen Munoz. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
So, real quick, I got to get the background out of the way. You know a little bit about swimming.
Yes. Yes.
So, what got you into swimming? Because obviously, at your level, you were good at it. Is that a good way to sum it up?
I was devoted to it. I had the good fortune to grow up in Southern California. My parents literally took me to the beach when I was weeks old. Oh. They always loved the ocean, and they took me down the ocean. So I grew up literally with my ankle deep in the Pacific Ocean, and then I'd jump in the waves. So I'm very, very comfortable with the water. And it just so happened during my era, 60s, 70s, and 80s, the US by far was the best swimming aquatic. This region was the best swimming aquatic era in the world, bar none. So wow. I grew up with a lot of training with a lot of Olympians, a lot of medalists. And I just sort of thought, as a junior high school athlete, I get everybody wins medals. Not everybody, but the people that I swim with. And so I was not as talented as them. So where I went was actually the long distance places. I knew I couldn't beat them in a sprint. I knew I couldn't beat them over 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or 4 minutes. But if you added that up into hours, I could just outlast them. So that's my area of expertise, is the marathon swimming world.
I sum that up as mental fortitude. You and I align, sir. Most sports that I have tried, especially as I've aged, I love, for some reason, torturing myself over great distances. I'm not officially an ultra athlete, but not this past season. The season before, I did complete my first 100-mile mountain biking race. Okay. I've done 100, 150, 200-mile road biking events. Never did that on a mountain bike. Figured, why not? I was 45. Let's try it out. And that was here in the quote mountains of Pennsylvania, which we're known for just wet, rocky, torturous goodness that people call technical skills. I'm air quoting. It builds your technical skills. So, but in California, you guys are a wealth of mountain biking background. In California, I used to live in Colorado. I used to when I was a firefighter. I was based out of Arizona before they shipped us all over the West. So you guys understand terrain. You guys understand mountains. So I would be basically the opposite of you. I went and did dry, dirty things and did not spend time in the water.
Yeah. And I think they all have the same sort of, you need that same sort of mindset, in that wherever you were mountain biking, it wasn't like you were on a busy Pacific Coast highway or a highway. I mean, you had nature and you had the rocks ahead of you, etc. In my case, I have the waves, I have the dolphins. I can't really hear anything. I'm not talking to anybody. And so you and me, you on a bike, me swimming, it's a very cerebral event. You know, you're talking to yourself all the time. Sometimes you're psyching yourself out. Sometimes you're psyching yourself up. You go through ups and downs. You know, sometimes you get hungry, thirsty, dirty, cold, you name it. And so I think there's a brotherhood where whatever distance, whatever activity that you're doing, I think that kind of dedication to your craft, whatever that craft is, requires that kind of person who just puts her head down. The goal is over there, and I'm heading in that direction.
I like that point. Over the years, you got well over 400 shows online, approaching 500, and it's the topic of mindset or that mental strength just became a regular point of conversation over the years, even though we talk about health, business, lifestyle, right? But like the mindset supersedes all of that. And as you quote, put in the reps in life or in the gym or in business, if you're an entrepreneur, whatever it may be, the practice, right? And practice doesn't make perfect. Practice helps you execute, helps you make the mistakes, helps you learn from them, find the right coaches or, leaders to help guide you along the journey. But one thing I've learned over the years is that, well, you just hinted at, there is that mindset that you got to be in it for the long haul if you truly want to, quote, master something or excel at something. I mean, how many years did you spend training? Obviously, since you were a small child, way before. I never touched the water, I think, until I was like 10 or 11. But I grew up on a farm. So and then we moved to another farm to a different state. And then I was never around water until 17, 18. I dove into my neighbor's pool thinking I could figure it out. I made it to the side of the pool. Obviously I didn't drown. I probably should have taken some lessons. Yeah. So my wife likes to point that out to me. She's like, could you please go take more lessons? Because you suck at swimming. And I said, I'll add that to the to-do list.
Well, I'm very comfortable in the ocean, high waves, currents, you name it. I don't take chances, but I understand, the ocean is a very dynamic environment. On the flip side, you put me on a farm and you tell me to handle the cows, the pigs, the chickens, the corn stalk, the grapes. I'm going to have to Google it because I would have no clue.
Yeah. It made it for a great backstory over the years. Cause like when I was in the corporate world, people we do team building conversations and stuff like that. And they're like, so, what's your childhood? What's your childhood? And I tell them, and they're like, I'm standing there wearing a suit. And they're like, sorry, what? I was like, yeah. Like I worked on my farm and then I rode my 10-speed bike 15 miles to a big dairy farm, and they paid me to then go milk cows and stuff at the age of 14 because I wanted to make money. And people are like, that's a thing? And I was like, yeah, sorry. So that was always a part of my weird backstory in the corporate world. And then when I became a firefighter out west around your neck of the woods, people were like, when I left the corporate world for a break for a few years, they were like, wait, you did cubicles and call centers and telecom, and I don't understand the words that are coming out of your mouth. We just literally, quote, you'll appreciate this, Stephen. They said, my superintendent says, listen, guys, all I want to see is asses and elbows. Yes. Meaning you're bent over, digging in the dirt, and you're not going to shower for a couple of weeks. And you're going to do this 16 hours a day with chainsaws and shovels and that's your life for the summer. And then you go to places like California, or we were in Arizona, and it might be 100, 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah. So it's just funny. Every massive shift, people then you try and share like your youthful stories. It's like, to me, you tell me like, dude, you were able to put your feet in the water as a young child. I was like, yeah, that's probably why I had this psychological thing I'm overcoming in the swimming world because I wasn't exposed to it. So
yeah. Well, and then you were talking about the vernacular. I think every walk of life, you have a certain words that you use, certain phrases, and they mean something very, very important or very, very significant in whatever you have. In swimming, you want your elbows high. In KAATSU, you want it high up on the shoulder. In your corporate world, you use certain terms. When you're a firefighter, you use certain terms, and when you say certain things, or your boss, your
Mhm.
firefighting supervisor telling you, go this way, you knew exactly what that felt. You knew exactly how that felt an hour in on the third day when it was
Oh, yeah.
100 and whatever degrees. You
Mhm.
knew when the fire was coming, what that felt like. You knew points of danger. You knew how after you finished, you were totally recovered and you went into a deep sleep, and then suddenly someone woke you up and you had to do it all over again.
Oh, we
It's,
camped under the stars every night. So
yeah,
Mother Nature was happy to wake you up, because if you
yeah.
didn't,
So,
you'd be given penalty push-ups because you didn't wake up on time.
oh,
That's very militaristic, Stephen.
yeah,
Uh, but it's
yeah,
funny because, like, bringing you on today, I tried doing more research into the term KAATSU, and you actually shared a couple great tips right before we hit record today, which I want to make sure we slide in here, because it's I got to study an Okinawan martial art, and actually was Shoin Ryu, I believe, was a specific
oh,
art. It's
okay,
been a long time,
yeah,
and I made the joke. I'm like, I remember, because I was a high energy kid. My sensei used to yell at me, "Yami." I think it was pronounced Yami, which I believe it means shut up or be
okay,
quiet, because we were crazy.
yeah,
And that's not when they whacked me with a bamboo stick, which always
yeah,
felt great, by the way. It just tickled.
yeah,
And then I think I could say, hold on, let me try it. 1 through 10. Ich ni san shi go rok sich hakuju. Pardon
perfect.
me if anybody knows that. I hope that's relatively all right. So,
Yes,
but
perfect.
again, we put in those reps, and that was 3-4 times a week in the dojo, training, learning. And it was more than just striking and kumite. It was kata. It was the dance, the art.
Yes,
Before we even were able to even touch a weapon. And so there was that simplicity of respecting the culture, respecting the vernacular,
yeah,
respecting how to execute on things. And before you're even in a kumite match, or in or wielding a weapon, and it just makes me fast forward to today and help me. I think it's things that has helped me throughout my life. And you being an athlete, dude, a marathon plus distance, swimmer, maybe one day I could do that. But right now, there's still that psychological barrier for me. I need to put in some reps. I got to put in some great time with my coach, spend more time back in the water. It's actually very humbling, because I've done a lot of crazy things in my life, and that my wife takes swimming for granted. She does triathlons.
okay,
She's like, all right, I need you to figure that out, because I want to take you scuba diving. And she goes, you might want to learn how to swim. And I was like, all human beings float. I'll just take the weight belt off. And she goes, no, it's not that easy.
yeah,
I'm guessing you scuba. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So what you're talking about when you were in the dojo where you practice your martial arts,
Mhm.
and you were taught respect for the dojo itself.
Oh yeah.
You were taught respect, obviously, to your sensei, your teacher. You were taught respect to your colleagues. In the same way, when I first stumbled across KAATSU, just to sort of jump forward many years, is I met Dr. Sato. He's the inventor of KAATSU. He put the KAATSU equipment on me, and immediately I thought, oh, this is really cool. Then I said to him, I said, Dr. Sato, I would love to learn how to do this. And he said to me, he goes, I I've been looking for someone like you. You live overseas, you speak English, and at the time, back in 2001, it was a very, very small community. And Dr. Sato was just bursting out with all these ideas and dreams, but it was only a bunch of doctors or academics and a few other people who knew KAATSU. And he said, oh, great, I want to teach you. And I was a willing, I wanted to be mentored. And I said, great, Dr. Sato. I live in Southern California. I'll go back, but when I go back, I'd like to study something. And he goes, oh, good. I know you'll appreciate. And I said, well, how do I learn? Like, do you have a book? And he looked at me, he says, well, it's all up here. It's all in his head. And I said, oh, yeah, that's okay. I'll come back and I'll study under you, etc. Well, by the time he said I understood enough, it was 13 years.
Oh, is that all? Okay.
13 years I went back to be mentored by Dr. Sato and his growing network of physicians, primarily cardiologists. And so little by little, I picked up what they were doing. And like many things in martial arts, when you're, a white belt, a yellow belt, a green belt, etc., you just don't see the things that a black belt sees.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how to move your body. Gradually, they'll get there. They establish this foundation, this building block. And then based on that building block, you learn more and more. And then when you're a black belt, you understand the different movements and you understand what is important and what is expected. In the same way, Dr. Sato taught me about human anatomy, human physiology, but also very, very holistic things. One of the things he first taught me was, hey, when you do KAATSU with somebody else, make sure they end with a KAATSU smile. He goes, when someone is smiling at the end of their workout or rehabilitation or recovery, whatever it is, he said, that they were satisfied either because they felt good, physiologically, psychologically. He said, that is your goal. Bring a smile to people's faces when you do KAATSU. And I mean, he talked about just, the physiology of the human body. He talked about, things at the cellular level. In one sentence, the next sentence, he'd be talking about a KAATSU smile.
He's my kind of guy. I like this guy. I mean, because that's one of the reasons why I love about podcasting. I've had scientists, I've had doctors, I've had entrepreneurs, I've had authors, I've had movie producers. This is the fun of having a simple conversation, and all these little wisps of wisdom come popping up. Something as simple as, okay, I'm willing to learn something, and I don't care how long it takes, 13 years just to get going. Okay. He basically became your sensei, right? To teach what he knows and takes very, very serious as a profession. All right. Let's pause on that real quick though. So KAATSU. Yeah. Before we hit record today, you had a nice simplistic definition. I think it's good for the listeners to hear that because I've had shiatsu massages and I liked the connection on that. It rang a bell for me right away. So how would you like to simplify that for people hearing that today?
Yeah. So just so people know, I have the little device here. See, KAATSU is spelled KAATSU. Ka means additional, atsu means pressure. And what you just mentioned about shiatsu is very similar. Shi in Japanese means hand, atsu means pressure. So you've got this massage. KAATSU, the Ka means additional, atsu means pressure. So shiatsu massage, KAATSU, you put bands on your upper arms and upper legs that apply additional pressure. That is the meaning and origin of the word.
And I love it because fortunately, yeah, sure, we'll go with that. Fortunately / unfortunately, my wife tore her ACL not last year before, and we're both big mountain skiers. So she grew up in ski racing, kind of like you with swimming. I mean, so she was on a pair of skis at 3 or 4 years of age. Me, because I'm the farm kid and then corporate monkey chasing dreams, trying to make money, I didn't bother taking my first ski lesson until I was 18. So she loves to just rub it in. Like, she has these beautiful, graceful, professional turns. And I'm, to this day, I'll ski anything she could ski, but she's much more beautiful at it and graceful as somebody who grew up in a ski race program. And then I started volunteering with a different ski race team before I even met her, and got to surround myself with people better than me, right? These professional athletes, professional coaches. I went from, throwing a bundle of race skates that you put in the snow that the kids ski around on my shoulder as a volunteer and wrecking in front of the finish tower with the head of the program up there on the PA saying, this is going to take a while, as far as him hinting at me, like if I'm going to be a quality member of the race team support staff, there was some work.
Yeah.
And again, I love getting humbled. I love getting embarrassed because it just means, great, I can't go any lower. Hopefully it's only up from here. Yeah. And again, it's back to that concept, but fast forward that back up to my wife. There was an amazing device that I didn't even know about using compression to help her heal faster. So not exactly what we're talking about here today, but I figured just fun to connect with you. Yeah. There's a gentleman here locally. He owns like 5-10 of these devices, and he works with cardiologists and PT docs and all these people. And I found out that the French ski race team uses them, and they were invented in Colorado. I'm just blanking on the name right now, but it'll pop back in my head. But it was a recovery machine, very small and compact compared to most. And there's knockoffs because, again, everybody likes to knock. Once something works, you got to knock it off. And somebody on Amazon was selling it where you take a bucket and the kit that you bought, which was cheap. You bought a bucket, you stuck some ice in there, and you put these hoses in it, and then the system would circulate the cold water around the wound area, the healing area. Well, these guys did it much better, and they have straps and stuff you can put on for arms, shoulders, hips. I've had my shoulder rebuilt twice in my life from adrenaline junkie activities that didn't go well, and I wish that tech it was then, because my wife, she was her surgeon, her PT people are like, oh my God, you're healing faster. You're recovering faster. She cut the recovery time in half just by me renting this machine from that guy saying, hey, treat me like one of your doctor clients. What I got, a couple $100 a month? Fine. He's like, Sky, he's like, if she uses it just for the first 2 weeks coming out of surgery, that is the most inflamed part, right? Post-surgery, she did the cadaver tendon, all that. They said being able to fight that inflammation, promote circulation. Also, so it was basically super chilling the area with a special program timer. I'm sure you guys got timers in your tech. And then it had built-in massage, air pressurization. So the device was basically an air pressurization machine with a chilling factor. And her recovery was exponentially faster, to the point where this past year, my in-laws, my mother-in-law, she was in Vail, Colorado. First week of the ski season, crashed, broke her shoulder, got a full replacement surgery. I called my father-in-law. I'm like, you better get that machine right away, because it worked on your daughter. Get it with the shoulder thing, put it on her, and she bounced back faster, and she's 73. So this technology advancements over the years is impressive. So I just want to connect that to you quick for my own personal story, because you guys understand something about pressure, but at a whole different level, at the vascular level.
Yes. So, I mean, the whole concept of this is you put on these bands. I have one band on my arm here as an example, and the unit inflates these bands, and it inflates it in a very controlled, very gentle manner. And gradually the blood goes into the arm or the leg, depending on what you're doing, upper body or lower body. And then it becomes very engorged in blood, and very similar to your wife, that circulation around an injured area has all kinds of profound healing impacts. And that was the genesis of KAATSU. Well, if you take that fast forward and you consider, okay, we're healing an injured part. How do we take the healthy part, your arms, your legs, your core, whatever, and make it better? And so Dr. Sato, over the years, created all kinds of different protocols based on this pressurization in the arms or legs. And that includes, if you have a broken rib, that includes if, you need a stronger core if you're a wrestler, or you're a water polo player, or you're, somebody who just had abdominal surgery, whatever the case is.
Collapsed the lung, been there, done that too, by the way. So, lung surgery. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah. So
I'm just here to help you with your story.
Yeah. Well, being a farmer and a firefighter, I'm sure you've got all kinds of issues that we could have helped with.
But here's the best part. I feel fitter now than I've ever been, because once I became obsessed about health, and then I geek out about stuff like we're talking about here today, like it's a fun journey. Like, if you could teach yourself to heal better, recover faster, and live better, even with your pre-existing injuries, to the point where you're pretty much fitter than you were 10, 15 years ago.
Absolutely.
How cool is that? Yeah. Right? I'm gonna do some screen sharing quick too, because you're describing how it looks, and I know you got it on your arm, but your website's really, really nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and, while you're explaining this, I'm just gonna do some sharing here. So yeah, so she's got that on her quad right now, right?
Correct. And so what she's doing right now, she's just doing some exercises, but what's happening in the below or to the right side of that band is that hamstring, her quad, her calf, the sole of her foot is very pink, and sometimes even a rosy has a rosy color to it.
Okay.
That is an indication that the blood is being engorged in the very small capillaries of the body. And it was Dr. Sato who actually realized the importance of capillaries. So you've got your arteries that take the blood away from the heart to your hands and feet. Then you've got your veins that bring the blood back from the hands and feet back to the heart. But a vast majority of your blood is actually in the capillary. It's a very, very small blood vessels in your body. So right here, you might, I have the unit on, again, on only one side, on my right side here. And you can probably see how
I'll stop sharing
deeply,
quick.
yeah.
Oh yeah, you definitely had to stop sharing for that. There's a color shift. Wow.
Yeah, so you can see, I put it on, 30 seconds of pressure, 5 seconds off, 30 seconds of pressure, 5 seconds off, and it increases. And when that happens, the very small capillaries in my entire arm get engorged in blood.
Okay.
So whether you look, if you look at, this is my normal skin color, and this is my KAATSU color. So you could see the distension of my veins. Now, this physiological condition only happens when I'm exercising,
right?
Doing push-ups, running up a hill, throwing a ball, whatever happens. It's an indication that the muscle is actually working. Now, normally we would think, when we think of exercise, we think of movement, bicep curls, push-ups, burpees, etc. But in fact, our body, as long as the engorgement of blood is happening, from the body's perspective, the brain's perspective, my right arm right now is working out. And you can see the difference between the KAATSU arm and non-KAATSU arm. So my body right now is, signals are being sent from my muscle fibers, from my vascular tissue to my brain and saying, hey, this guy is working out. So what happens then when the brain gets these signals that go up through the central nervous system up to my brain, and they're saying, hey, there's some kind of stress on the body. My brain has no idea if I'm doing bicep curls, push-ups, or KAATSU. Has no idea.
Good point.
It just gray matter up there, receiving signals internal to my body. When those signals are sent, or I'm sorry, when those signals are received, then there's a hormonal response. Then my body naturally, because it's receiving these signals up to my brain, is producing growth hormone, testosterone, adrenaline, beta endorphins, plasmalogens, ceramides, et cetera, et cetera. And so how you have these bands on, what pressure, what time, and a variety of other simple protocols that are very easy for anybody to know, you can start affecting change in your vascular system, as you can see here.
Oh yeah.
Your hormonal response, as we can't see, but is actually happening. And therefore, what's happened, if you have a body part that has been injured, you can start healing it just like your wife did. Or if you're an athlete, or if you're a 45-year-old or 55-year-old dad and you've got to shovel snow in Pennsylvania, then, and
it's a great workout, by the way.
Yes, it is. And we do have people in the Northeast and in the Great Lakes area who actually, when they go out, they have their KAATSU bands under their jacket and they're just shoveling snow. They come out of there pumped like you cannot believe.
Interesting. Okay. Because, well, to be fair, what you're explaining here is are we making the body think that it's working out hard or not really? We're just triggering an extra focus on proper circulation and recovery?
Yes, absolutely. And that alone then leads naturally to the body or the brain producing a variety of hormones and metabolites. So that it's kick-started by these bands inflating, hence the word KAATSU, additional pressure. First thing happens is these bands inflate, then you get an engorgement of blood in the arms or legs, and then the body's natural processes take over. And when Dr. Sato explained that to me early on, because he had to explain the mechanisms in the body, what hormones are produced, what levels, how do you do this for a 25-year-old stud athlete versus an 85-year-old grandfather who's had some injuries in his life? Those are two different bodies. They're two different engines. And so the pressures that you put on, or the time under tension, or even the limb movements are different. And so it took him 13 years to explain step by step. We worked with Olympic athletes, gold medalists, world champions, Japanese baseball, pro baseball players who are now in the major leagues. But most of our people were older than the age of 50. Because yes, it's very fun. It's very interesting to work with these elite performers. Elite performers weren't always only athletes. They were musicians. They were ballerinas. They were other people who used their body as part of their profession. Models. We once worked with a leg model. Literally, her thigh was the thigh that you always see in magazines. Not her face, not her feet, but that portion. She just had the most incredible upper leg you can imagine. And that was her bread and butter. So, she obviously, like any professional athlete, she wants to extend her career as long as possible.
Sure. Reinvest in herself. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So those are the kinds of people that we worked with, or those are the kinds of people that Dr. Sato was working with. And I was at his side, gradually learning, picking up exactly, this is what you do for a torn labrum. This is what you do when you have an actor who is going to do a kissing scene, but they want their arm to be as buff as possible in the scene, or a model who's going to be photographed, or a new bride, the morning of her wedding. She wants to be glistening. She wants to be glowing. So we would be doing KAATSU on her in the morning.
Never would have thought about that one, but I guess that makes sense. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Right before the makeup is put on, right before the hair is made up, we're there with KAATSU in the arms and legs.
Well, I love the fact that this is tied beyond just fitness, because I'm reminded about this to this day. I mean, I'm probably leaner than I've ever been, but I live a very anti-inflammatory lifestyle. I've had countless influencers. I've been to countless conferences about the obviously anti-inflammatory choices, dietarily, nutritionally, obviously the ketogenic movement, whether it be ketogenic, keto this. My former client, he owns a trademark, NSNG. He was a famous trainer out in California, Vinny Tortorich. But the point is, no sugar, no grains is his trademark. That's how he got famous people ready for the movies. He's like, you want to lose weight, fix your kitchen. He's like, I can train you all you want, but he's like, if you're putting bad things in, you're going to get bad things out. But I get a kick out of I donate blood every 8 weeks. It's a regular part of my lifestyle. The ladies there, they love my veins. They love my vascular ability. So I was like, man, if I didn't have great vascular ability, I could just strap this thing on, that morning before I head in. And then the phlebotomist would be like, what is going on? I mean, I get that now, but I feel like you could probably level me up to another level with these phlebotomists. They would lose it.
Absolutely. Every time I have to have a blood test or do anything where a phlebotomist is poking me, absolutely, on the way there, or in the lobby, they already know me. I've got my KAATSU bands on. And so the whole thing is additional pressure. And Dr. Sato taught me over those 13 years how to apply additional pressure with these bands in multiple iterations with people from all walks of life. And so it was good for me because I come from the swimming and water polo world, the aquatic community. I know that community. I had never seen, a football team, a professional football team, a Division I football team, what do they do in preseason? What do they do in the championship season? I didn't know. I'd seen wrestling, I'd seen downhill skiers, but I didn't know exactly what they did in the preseason, in the midseason, etc.
Oh yeah, skiers, man. It's all about, look at the quote, dry land training. We called it preseason. So
yeah, I mean, it was very, it still is very interesting to me because I see, the combative sports, the MMA fighters, the boxers, the wrestlers on one side. I see people who, run track and field, in addition to bobsledders, javelin throwers, etc. And they are all perfecting their body to accomplish something pretty incredible. And then we take a step back. When they get injured, there is this unbelievable dedication to their craft to get back to their field of play.
Oh yeah.
And like your wife, and maybe the thing is, was it game ready? Was the thing you were talking with the ice?
No, see, now I got to look it up while you're saying that, because I'm done. I finished screen sharing. So I don't know if you noticed, I was screen sharing parts of the doctor's explanation video, which is great because sometimes people need that visual, and that's going to be great for when we air this on the YouTube as well. But now I got to look it up. It's something simple. It's like one was in the name. It was founded in Colorado. But I'll confirm it here in a second. But one thing real quick I liked about this was because people think, how do I put this? We shouldn't need to supplement. I'm referring to supplement industry, vitamins, etc. If you got everything dialed in and the nutrient density you're putting in your body is great, you should be relatively covered. Like I've even been taking breaks off of vitamins just to see how I'm doing things. I love hacking myself. I treat myself as an M1 experiment. But one of the things I loved out of that video was the simple topic of human growth hormone, aka HGH. If you are a healthy, fit person and you train right and you take care of yourself right, your body will generate its own HGH. Am I wrong on that?
Yes. No, you're absolutely right.
Okay. So your tech is actually helping build, I guess, regular utilization of that more consistently is what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So the first few years under Dr. Sato, Dr. Nakajima, Dr. Morita, etc., they just explained to me the different processes that happen in the human body. Just what does the body do at homeostasis? When you and I are sitting here, we're not training, we're not taking supplements, we're not asleep. What is the body actually doing? And then they explained to me what the body does in a 24-hour period. What is that circadian rhythm that our bodies go through? And then when you disrupt it with stress at work, you disrupt it through multi-zone airplane travel, you disrupt it because I
was flying last week.
You disrupt it because you get pregnant or you have a new child in the home. There's all these things. And so they took the very first thing before they taught me KAATSU was, what does the body do? And I was just fascinated how they were explaining to me what the body does, because they looked at it, not necessarily what they learned in their modern medical school education. They went back in time. Steve, what did you do 2,000 years ago when you broke a bone? What did you do when you had a major laceration? And they taught me about herbs and different plants and other things that exist to this day that people way back when did. And now you add in the modern sort of first world medicine, whether it's Eastern medicine or Western medicine, how those can actually implement the body. Then they took me to the next level with KAATSU, saying, look, the body is this miraculous machine. The brain is still, they have no idea what really its potential is and how it really works. But they were saying, this is what the body does anyway. Now let's use KAATSU to more fuel for the fire. What is this internal engine doing? And how can we use these bands, this equipment, to fast forward, enhance, augment, quicken these natural processes that are happening in the human body.
Adding in external technology to trigger internal success. I mean, for example, right behind me, red light therapy device. Okay. There's tons of now proven documented science. So obviously I'm playing with that too. I let 20 minutes, put my little goggles on, red light therapy. I'm doing all kinds of research into that now too. Like I said, I'm my own N1 experiment. Like that device I was talking about. Actually, I remember now. It's Nice was the name of the company, NICE. But the machine, it was called Nice One. Anyway, it was like this little box, like this big. And all it did was has its own self-contained fluid, and it was chilling and compressing. But it was accelerating her healing process. So the only thing missing from that is, what do you do ongoing? That is a short-term thing, or immediately after, within 30 days after an injury, surgery, etc. What I'm learning from your technology is this is something you could use the rest of your life. And I guess, so it was cool. I mentioned the positive of HGH. And just because I already brought up anti-inflammatory lifestyles, I brought up ketogenic lifestyles, I brought up what we put in is what we get out, right? Have people brought up concerns around compression with vascular impacts, right? So obviously we're talking about compressing things and keeping fluid in certain areas. I'm intrigued. I'm sure people have brought this up. How do you talk to that? Because I live very anti-inflammatory, so I don't have to worry about that. I know my blood vessel walls are nice and the way they should be. They're not triggered from I don't put bad things in to make that happen. Again, I've interviewed many doctors and many scientists. There's plenty of past episodes on that. So how do you discuss that for people who do have concerns? Because I'm sure if there are people in a very unhealthy state of life, and God forbid, heart disease, diabetics, etc., is there concerns? Do you coach people around that? How do you talk to all that?
Absolutely. And that's why Dr. Sato, his first group of colleagues were cardiologists. So he knew exactly, if he could convince cardiologists that increasing the elasticity of our vascular tissue in a safe, controlled, gentle manner was beneficial, then the rest of the medical community and in the society at large would follow, would assume that the cardiologists are not going to be critical of something that they already knew was safe. So during that 13-year period, there was 10 years where I studied with the cardiologists that were doing all the very fundamental research that now we're based our company on. And so, but all that research was done in Japan. It's now followed up in China, Brazil, the UK, Switzerland, Spain, the US. Although we as Americans, always think our medical technology is number one and far in advanced. What I've seen as I travel around the world, there are other ways to achieve things, and it has taken a long time for me to explain to neurologists, cardiologists, internists, podiatrists, and other specialists here in the United States that KAATSU is not a tourniquet. When they see these bands around my arms, the first thing they think of, the very first thing, it's a tourniquet. You can't put a tourniquet and you can't stop arterial flow, which is a flow from your torso out to your hands. You can't stop arterial flow on someone who's morbidly obese, or someone who has neuropathy, or diabetes, etc. And so what we have is, I had to show, and you see the bands. You can see the pink hue of his arm below the bands.
Oh yeah.
This Olympic gold medalist. But I had to explain to people and show people one by one, this is a blood pressure cuff.
Yep.
It's very thick, it's very inelastic, and its whole purpose is to cut off your blood momentarily, but that's the purpose. This is actually much different. It's engineered different, and therefore it has been literally a person by person, physician by physician, coach by coach, long process to get this technology appreciated.
I'm aligning with you, Stephen, because one thing I didn't mention is my wife is a pretty smart cookie. She's a large animal equine doctor. So
Okay.
went to Cornell, UPenn, and then she also loves the wellness side outside of our Western medicine. So she's also a doctor of chiropractic for animals as well. And years ago, we went to South Africa on a trip and to a conference there. And somebody was introducing shockwave therapy. I don't know if you ever heard of that. And it's basically sending a specific frequencies of sound waves into your tissue, deeper than surface level, like your device is doing. But the whole point is to, without having to worry about cutting open an injury, can you promote the healing of vascular damage? Can you promote the healing of tissue just from an outside trigger, like a shock wave being sent through the skin into, the damaged area? And it was already approved around the world for large animal, horses, etc. But it was only approved here in the US until recently for type 1 diabetics. Interesting, right? And then all of a sudden, like last month, I was visiting my human chiropractor, and all of a sudden she's got a shockwave device. I was like, I thought this wasn't approved for humans here in the US. She's like, well, it takes us a little while and we try and catch up. So I feel like you're that guy, right? It's like, we've already proven it around the world and in so many ways.
Yeah.
It just takes a while.
Yes. Well, you were talking about large animals, equine, etc. So part of this 13-year process, in there, we tested on horses, goats. It can be used on small animals, a dog, for broken bone. The same band that goes around the human arm or human leg can go around the foreleg.
You can cinch it down that small?
Pardon me? Yes.
You can cinch that down that small. Wow.
Yes. Well, this is a large band for my arm.
Yeah.
The small band is about, maybe half the size. So it can get, it can go pretty small
cool
around a foreleg of a pretty small animal.
Yeah.
So
very nice.
Yeah. So, we do all kinds of interesting testing. One of the things that I very much appreciate as an American, but also as someone who's always interested in science, discovery, experimentation, proving what certain visionaries see, is working with our U.S. military.
Oh, yes.
Our U.S. military, they if they know something works, and they know something works well on a veteran or an active duty individual, they will use it. They don't need to wait for the surrounding civilian physicians to approve it. One very interesting, we have these little bans on military dogs. So,
is that just to help with their recovery because they get put through so much, or?
Yes, or they get, unfortunately, sometimes these dogs are injured, especially nowadays with, guerrilla warfare and other kinds of things that we use animals, we use dogs to, sniff out certain things. And sometimes, accidents happen, and the soldiers, especially the special forces soldiers, I mean, they know that animal saved lives.
Yes.
Directly saved lives. And now that poor animal is injured, it is the emotional bond between the human soldier and the canine soldier is a beautiful thing to see. So, I mean, I'm going off on a tangent, but a lot I learned through Dr. Sato and his colleagues that, if we're talking about a mammal, whether it's the human species or equine, it's very, very similar, and the effects of KAATSU are just the same.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're talking about tissue, vessels, hormonal responses. Yeah. I mean, again, my wife has taught me a lot about that. We've been together for 10 years now, married for 4. And it's just obviously a much larger entity than us. But again, torn tissue, muscle recovery, torn tendons, ligaments, all these things can apply across all those domains. And I love the fact that you hit on the military, because it's such a destructive career, depending on, obviously, God forbid, what happens to somebody. So many stories from every war, it's pretty much inevitable. And then obviously adding in things like the bomb sniffing dogs and things of that nature, and they are part of our service world. So I have friends of mine that are police officers. They're K9 guys, and my wife will do chiropractic on their dogs. And she always gets frustrated if it's a new one, because they're like, God, she's like, nobody's taking care of your dog. And they take care of the dogs, but she's from the wellness side. She's oh my God. And then she takes it as a personal passion. And I love that. I love that. So, so, well, listen, we're coming to the top of the hour. You good for another couple of minutes just to bring the show? So it's been how long now? You obviously, the doc.
It's been 22 years, 22 almost years. 23 years. Yes.
So, and again, from the very beginning, it was mostly based in Japan, right? Where he was
entirely based in Japan, and even it was entirely based in a very small area of Tokyo.
Okay.
And it was just that, I through a fluke set of circumstances, I met him. I visited his laboratory. He had a long line of people who were waiting to see him. I stood in line and I waited, and he knew I was coming. And he put the KAATSU on me, explained what he was doing very, in layman's terms at the time. And I was immediately hooked. I wasn't thinking at all about business. I wasn't thinking, oh, this is an entrepreneurial opportunity. What I was actually thinking is, oh, this can be used by my parents.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I can see using this for my mom or my father. And then, so, I expressed to Dr. Sato my interest in learning more. And then, when I went back the second or third time, I'm thinking, oh my God, this is really revolutionary. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And, at that point I said, Dr. Sato, I think you have something here. And, let's think about engineering the product so it can be replicated by anyone, anywhere. And so, you can take these home, you could use it in the office, you can use it in an airplane. We've used it in submarines. We've used it on aircraft carriers.
Wow.
And so we had to think about, and that's why the military is such a great partner of ours, is they really put it through the paces. Whether it's
that's one good thing the military is good for, man. You want to get a proving testing ground on some technology. They're happy to put it through the paces.
And what's really cool is, again, there are men and women in our military services, but because we started with the special forces, that's all male. To this day, it's all male. That there's some administrators or females, but the actual fighting soldier is a male. And you can appreciate anytime you get a male, especially one who's in the service, active member, to feel like they've got pumped up arms.
Oh yeah.
They're sold.
I got buddies that are former special forces guys I met through the gym and everything else, and they like a good flex. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just cut right to the chase. Yeah. And don't get me wrong. Again, from the CrossFit world, a friend of mine owns a gym that my wife goes to. There's some ladies up in there that like to get a good flex on too. So it definitely transcends across the domain. I was just gonna say though, I finally switched over to you got a big team now. I mean, you guys have been busy. Yeah. I was digging into the back end of your site here. You guys have built a bit of a team over the years.
Yeah. So. Well, that's what I like. I mean, even if you look, the guy on the far right, John Doolittle, a 25-year veteran, Navy SEAL, retired as a Navy SEAL captain. He actually used our product when he tore his bicep.
Wow.
And towards the end of his career, and he gave me a call one day, which a lot of these people have came to us in the same way. He gave me a call and he said, look, I'm thinking about retiring after 25 years. And, I just used your stuff and I rehabbed like never before. He's had 13 orthopedic surgeries in his life. If you can go down a little bit, this gentleman here, Joe Lowry, the green beret, just a little bit up.
Right there.
Yeah, right there. The green beret second. Yeah, that guy right there. Took a bullet to the head in a firefight with the Taliban in Afghanistan. He was hemiplegic, or he became a hemiplegic, which means that he can only use one side. And now he's driving. His memory is improved. I mean, this guy is unbelievable. We
That's
call him
impressive.
G.I. Joe.
Well, I mean, let's be real. I mean, the brain needs circulation. I mean,
Yeah,
and if your device can improve overall circulation in the body and performance of
yeah,
the organs and obviously everything else, what if that's a blessed side effect of, hey, wow, we're healing? You know,
yeah,
it might take a little while. I mean, the
yeah.
body goes through that much trauma.
Right.
It might take a little bit, but that's impressive. I mean, I'm already thinking about, like, man, I gotta get one of these for my parents. But then I was like, I gotta do it for myself first. So
Yeah,
because something as simple as electrostim therapy, right? So my chiropractors both use that. And I have a friend of mine, she loves that technology so much that she went and bought like the professional machine. Like you could buy these little,
yeah, yeah,
travel friendly like stim devices with the stick on pads and stuff. And that's a very good, effective technology. I used it recently from a lower back injury. But this is another level of therapy, recovery,
yeah,
rehabilitation type of technology that is clearly portable
yeah,
and easily used. So
yeah, yeah,
I'm impressed.
yeah. Thank you. I
Yeah.
mean, we use this. I've used it on people who have been comatose, amputees, people have cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis. Again, you're doing slightly different protocols,
Mm-hmm.
but these are the things that Dr. Sato and his colleagues shared with me, and I took that information, obviously in Japanese, translated into English, and now we're in 49 countries in the world, and every single person that's on our team, every single person who's using it in their clinic or their team or their university say the same thing that Dr. Sato said to me. When you finish a KAATSU session, make sure that the user has a KAATSU
To
smile.
smile. Yeah. I like it. That's a great slogan, by the way, too. So actually, that'd be great. You put that on the back of a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you leave with a Katsu smile today?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this is exciting, man. So I'm glad you came on the show today. I hope, actually, I know, as my listeners always do, they learned a lot today. So what's happening next for you guys? I mean, obviously this will be releasing here in 2023. Is there anything big coming up in the lineup?
Yes. 2024 will be at the Paris Olympics.
Oh,
We're, the next step, I told you we're used under the water, on the
mhm.
water. So in submarines, on boats, we're used on land, obviously. We're used in pools, we're used in airplanes. Our next step, and we just started this research this year, is actually to be used in zero gravity conditions,
I was going
otherwise
there.
known as space.
I was like, come
And
on.
yeah, and so what is remarkable about this, and early on, we're talking 2000 and probably 2 or 3, Dr. Sato was saying, if we do this in space, then we can avoid the problem of muscle degeneration
Mhm.
and loss of bone mass. And
No.
I go, Dr. Sato, that doesn't make sense. He goes, don't worry, that comes in the later chapters of your mentorship.
He's always
And
got you learning.
right. But it has taken time, and that's where that research is ongoing. It's all been successful. We did the initial research at the Massachusetts General Hospital, otherwise known as the Harvard Medical School,
Mhm.
with some NASA researchers, again, focusing on the brain. What is the actual mechanism to maintain our muscle mass and bone density? And so when I use the explanation Dr. Sato first gave to me, before I ever get to how to use these bands, first have to make sure that the researchers understand the mechanism that happens in the body. What happens when you go for a run? What happens when you get cold? What happens when you eat? And once they understood those mechanisms, then these researchers obviously understand what happens when astronauts are in space over time. There's all kinds of changes that happen in the human body. That's fine if you're up in space for a month or two. It starts to get a little more dicey when 1 or 2 months turns into several months, and in the
Right.
case of trying to put humankind on the moon or Mars, wherever we're going to go, now you're talking years. So how do we keep the human shape, the human form, the human functional strength at its peak, because if you're going to be in the moon, if you're going to be on Mars, you better not be out of shape.
Oh, that's true.
You got to perform. And so all of that research is ongoing, and we're pretty excited about that.
I could see that. It was a no-brainer. I was kind of predicting you were going to go there because I was hoping you were going to go there, because obviously the whole NASA program has changed so much over the years. They've retired the shuttle program so that they're not able to get up there as often, as frequently as they used to, unless, the partnerships with Russia with their space program, and now everything else happening with SpaceX and all the other, platforms out there. But I was just listening to a podcast the other day. I'm a podcaster who listens to other podcasts, and they were saying how the future, actually one of the most recent guys who just came back, he was just saying that they're up there longer now. So yeah, that 1 or 2 month thing, now the guys are signing on for 6 months, and they need that prolonged study period. So this is very exciting, and you guys can get some exposure through the NASA research team. So well, I mean, some great upcoming things. I'm excited for the Paris Olympics too. My wife and I, huge sports nuts, love the Olympics. So that's our jam every single year. We don't miss any of the Olympics when that finally comes up in the cycle, especially the Winter Olympics, obviously. So, but listen, you've dropped some knowledge on us today. Thank you so much. KAATSU, I have a special tie to it just because of the whole Japanese thing. I love it. Obviously, childhood martial arts. But one thing I asked my guest co-host before we sign off, and obviously I'll give you a proper goodbye off the air once we stop recording. But over the years, I was always asking my co-hosts, hey, what's some final words you leave behind, something inspiring? But then I realized it's become much more of a legacy message. And I see that with your brand. Obviously, what Dr. Sato has created, what you've helped him bring to the world. Is there something of a legacy message you guys are kind of have reached now, because you've been at this for over 20 years, that you're trying to leave behind in the world today or for mankind?
Yeah, I think it's a very simple message. When you finish KAATSU, leave with a smile. And when people are hurting, and again, most of the people that we encounter are people who are hurting. They've been injured, sometimes psychologically, but mostly physiologically, or they're an athlete who is not satisfied with their performance. And so when you've been an athlete, if you have a great workout, you leave the gym, you come off the mountain, you leave the swimming pool with a huge smile. I mean, maybe it's not shown so everybody can see it, but internally you are satisfied, you are proud, you are confident. And so that little goal of ours, leave with a KAATSU smile, means a lot. It means a lot for us as people who share the technology, because we appreciate that smile. That smile is a direct message to us that we served a purpose here, and it was a useful one. And as you know, whether you're laughing with your buddies, you have a great conversation with your wife or your parents, whoever it is, when you leave that Thanksgiving dinner, when you leave that date, when you leave the home to go to work, or you're coming back and you end that, you start it with a smile, it's infectious. People really want to repeat that sense of gratitude, happiness, enjoyment, appreciation, and that's what we're trying to do.
I couldn't have asked for a better way to close the show out. I think the simplicity, ladies and gentlemen, of what he just hit on, the power of a simple smile. I've had countless psychology experts on this show as well over the years. Obviously, I dual majored it myself. The simple positive hormonal responses, emotional responses that come out of just generating a simplistic smile. And then obviously what we learned today, if you could do it at the KAATSU level, I think you're having a pretty successful smile and a pretty successful day. So ladies and gentlemen, remember, check out KAATSU.com, KAATSU. We did a bunch of screen sharing today for the YouTube feed out there. And again, remember, Stephen really helped us today as the newest guest co-host, right? It's about smiling, but also healing, recovering, and maybe living a better life. So get outside your comfort zone. And remember, we're here to fuel your health, your business, and your lifestyle. But also remember, you too can live the fuel. And we'll talk to you guys again soon.